When you move, you need a reliable company led by passionate folks, eager to assist its customers during a transitional process that needs to be smooth. Call Essential Moving Experts at 844-368-5750 for all your local and long-distance moving needs. You can rely on Essential Moving Experts. Mention the Big O Show and get $150 off. Family owned and operated, they offer free 30-day storage, full-service moving, fully licensed, bonded, and insured. Moving was never so easy. EssentialMovingExperts.com. The viewpoint statements or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyAccess.com, Media Group Inc. ownership, management, sponsors, or website.
Okay, obviously poor job by me, poor job by our organization, credit to Middle for doing what they did. So that being said, questions?
Mario, what do you tell your team after a game like that? Obviously, very disappointing loss. What do you just tell them after that?
The truth.
Which was?
They coached better than us, they played better than us. They were better. We didn't do a good enough job. There's no excuse. A real man look in the mirror, do something about it, and don't let it allow any cracks to happen from the inside. We all came here for a purpose and a reason. We got a lot of work to do. The truth.
A storm is now making shore. The Miami Hurricanes Watch with host Mike McCoy is on. The Watch is mastered by Sean Stanley and Chad Shobe. Time for hardcore Miami Hurricanes talk. Here's your host, Mike McCoy.
I'm muted. I'll start over. My bad. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Miami Hurricanes Watch on the Sports Talk 305 Network. I'm your host, Mike McCoy. And are you ready? Because I really didn't want to go through this week, but I am. And so it's all good. Got a lot to talk about, and we're going to get to it. Got a nice little show planned out for you for the rest of the hour. We'll be off at 9 o'clock. Got Gray Crow calling in the next segment. If you guys don't recognize the name, you should. Shame on you, especially if you're a Canes fan. Former quarterback here at the University of Miami, and we'll get into what he's doing now and what he thinks about the game. And I want to talk to him about a little bit about quarterback play, kind of see maybe his insight as to what is going on in the mind of a slumping quarterback, like it seems to be with Tyler Van Dyke, TVD number 9. But man, oh man, what a week end for Miami, and not a good one. All I could think about was, is this one of, well, not is it one of, but is it the worst loss in program history? I say no. I think the one to FIU tops the list way more than this one, way more than Virginia. The last game to close out the Orange Bowl, I was at that game. It had the rock coming out and hyping up the crowd at the 50-yard line, all much ado about nothing. I think Miami got shut out in that game. Nice little fact about that game. I believe that the very first game, it was either the very first game at the OB that Miami lost to Virginia, or the last time Miami got shut out at the OB before the last game was also by Virginia. So crazy stat there. But yeah, man, let's get into it. Where do I start, right? I mean, what's going to go on? Let's start with the good, the bad, the ugly. How about we do that? The good. You guys want to take a stab at it? Because, I mean, there's really not much to draw from in terms of positives to take out the game. There were. I had to dig, okay? I had to ask a buddy of mine to send me some stats over from Pro Football Focus, and there's a common trend, all right, in the grades that came out from that game. So let's talk about the little bit of good that came out from this game from Miami, because there wasn't much. I mean, I'm going to keep it real. There was not much. But what was good was a particular unit on the team that's been playing well all year long. Okay, and people should know who it is because you haven't had much to complain about: the defensive line, right? So let's look at what was positive about that game. These are PFF grades from Saturday's game when Miami lost to Middle Tennessee State University. Ugh, that's actually the first time that I said it. Miami lost to Middle Tennessee State University. What was it, 45-31? That's an ass kicking. I know it's only a 14-point loss, 2-score game, but at home against a team that you were supposed to beat by 26 and a half points, 27 points, after looking how you did the week before, really solid in a loss at A&M, that's an ass kicking. And it hurts my soul to say it, but it is what it is, all right? Whew. So the top graded player from Saturday's game was Jafari Harvey, a guy that didn't get much burn last year, was labeled as, pretty much a freak. Once he got to Miami and he started putting some pounds on, the guy looks like an action figure, right, or an alien or whatever you want to call it. Got that from my buddy Jordan. He likes calling guys aliens and action figures when they're freaks of nature. So Jafari Harvey, he graded out at 88.7. Okay, Daryl Jackson, Akeem Mesidor, Jared Harrison Hunt, Chance Williams, Leonard Taylor, Antonio Moultrie. What do all those guys have in common? They play on the D line. Okay, those are that was like 7 guys I named in the top 10 of guys that were the top rated players on Saturday versus Middle Tennessee State, the Blue Raiders at home. Jafari Harvey led the list in 88 with an 88.7 grade. Daryl Jackson has been solid all year, 83.5. Akeem Mesidor, 83.3. Cam Kitchens came in at number 4, 80.2, and a 5th-rated player in terms of performance by PFF Pro Football Focus was Daryl Porter Jr. at 75.0. That's pretty much it in terms of good. The other good, maybe some good, maybe some bad, depending on how you look at it. I mean, let's be honest. When TVD was benched, Jake Garcia gave a much needed spark to the offense. And I mean, that's what a backup quarterback is supposed to do. You don't really expect a backup quarterback to come in and save the day, especially after you were down, 3 turnovers. Was it 3 or 4 turnovers in the first quarter or first half? I know Miami had back-to-back interceptions on their first 2 series of the game. The opening drive, you had that very first throw was a pick. Then you had a pick 6, great play by the defensive end, tipping it to himself and running it back in to the end zone for a pick 6. And then, Miami was never in sync in that game. Credit to Middle Tennessee State. They did what they had to do. Blase. However, Miami never showed up. And that's really, really, really discouraging, especially after you look how you did versus Texas A&M. So that's the good. Jake came in, those grades from the D line, and Daryl Porter, Al Blades was also in the top 10. Jared Harrison's Hunt, like I said, so on and so forth. But Jake came in. The main difference between Jake and TVD was what? Jake obviously didn't have. I don't want to say that TVD had the nerves, okay, because you don't play with nerves at this point in your career when you played so much as you did last year and have the accolades coming in. Or not the accolades, but the notoriety coming into this season as he did. The guy was being talked about as being, a Heisman contender, possibly in New York, right? But he was calmer than TVD. He didn't have, I guess I can use the word nerves. He wasn't pressing like TVD did. He just seemed to be flowing a lot easier than TVD has in the past. Well, pretty much for the last 3 games. Didn't look terrible at all versus Bethune-Cookman, but that was so long ago, and it was Bethune-Cookman. But guess what, guys? The same problems that have plagued TVD are probably going to plague Jake Garcia. And you saw them, all right, as the game finished because, the O-line was breaking down. Receivers weren't catching things. Just because there's a different quarterback doesn't necessarily mean that guys are all of a sudden going to grow stickum on their gloves, all right? Or the O-line is going to be like, okay, I remembered how to block. There's no such thing as, I'd rather block for this quarterback than this one. That doesn't happen All right, that's just at least not on this team. I know that's not happening. Jake is a beloved quarterback that they got. They all get along. TVD and Jake get along. The O line doesn't care who's throwing the ball. They just got to know. They have to know. Or sorry, they do know that they got to block for whoever's behind them, running back, quarterback, whatever the case is. But other than Jake looking decent and the those top grades from the D line mostly, there was not much good. Okay, that was the good. Now the bad, a number of things, right? O-line play regressed, and I was told by a pretty good, person with information as to how and why that happened. Not at liberty to really share that. I'm not going to mess up these connections that I have. I kind of like knowing things, so I'm not going to go ahead and put myself out there. But it was interesting to hear how and why the O-line did not look the same as they did versus Texas A&M. I will say this. If you know tape, if you're an O-line guy, or maybe if you're a running back, if you're an offensive guy, look at the O-line play for the entire game. Go back and look at tape. Go back and look at the rerun. Go back and look at tape and only focus on the O-line, okay? For that A&M game and Middle Tennessee State, and tell me what you see. So there's a huge difference, all right? There's a little bit of a change there, but in any event, regression in O-line, regression all across the board, okay? Wide receiver play, I believe they had 6 or maybe 7 drops. I can't remember what the number was. Secondary absolutely got torched, okay? And that was something that, everyone knew it was going to happen. Well, I'm not saying that knew it was going to happen, but everybody knew that the secondary was definitely going to be challenged against Middle Tennessee State. Why? Because they like to throw the ball. They came out with 4 receiver sets almost every single freaking play, all right? 5 at some point. They spread the ball out. Quarterback draw. When that happened, people were screaming that at the stadium, I heard. And so I just want to take a quick dive into the box score really quick, because I mean it was ugly. There were 2 receivers, okay, on Middle Tennessee State's roster, 2 receivers that totaled 3 catches. One had 2, and the other receiver had 1. But all 3 of those catches were touchdowns. Miami secondary got torched, and it wasn't even close. And so as I pull up the box score right now, I've looked at it, but I haven't looked at it since. So I mean, I looked at it on Saturday night, so I really don't remember all the numbers. I just know that Miami looked like Middle Tennessee State in that regard. All right, if I gave you the stats at the end of the game, or maybe even right now, you would have said, "Oh yeah, Miami won going away." But scoring by quarter really quick. 17, 7, 7, and 14. That was Middle Tennessee State. 17, 7, 7, and 14. Miami, 3, 7, 7, and 14. So Miami and Middle Tennessee State matched each other from the second quarter on, scoring 7, 7, and 14. Where Middle Tennessee won the game is 17-3 in the first quarter. So Chase Cunningham, quarterback for Middle Tennessee State. Hell of a game, man. Hell of a game. That kid came in 16 of 25, very efficient game, 408 yards, guys, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, completed 16 yards per pass. That's woof. They only ran for 99 yards. Frank Peasant came in, 19 carries, 74 yards, had a touchdown on 3.9 per rush. But Middle Tennessee State's one of those teams that they pass to set up the run. That's even something that the coach said. So DJ England Chisholm is the receiver for Middle Tennessee State that caught 2 passes for $169, 2 touchdowns. Jalen Lane, 4 catches for $130, no touchdowns. Elijah Metcalf, 1 catch, 69 yards, 1 touchdown. That was the other receiver that had all of his catches. One of his catches went for a touchdown. Middle Tennessee State, 408 yards in the air. Miami did throw for 307, but that was all kind of like empty. They were playing catch up the whole time. Whenever Miami responded, Middle Tennessee State responded even bigger. Okay, and it was just a very, very bad day for Miami. And I'm gonna go ahead and continue this good, bad, ugly in the third segment, because there was so much bad and ugly and very little good that I'm going to go ahead and, I didn't have enough time to go ahead and talk about it in just one segment, in about 20 minutes worth of time. I've been talking that for that long. But in any event, I don't want to cut off Greg Crow, who's going to who's going to be joining us in the next segment. I'm really excited to talk to him. Um, I'm really excited to have you guys listen to what he has to say. Spoke to him last week over the phone, kind of got to know each other. The very first and only time I've ever spoken to him. Awesome guy. And fun fact, he was a roommate with Scott Patchen, who hopefully maybe will join us the show next week. Sounds like he will be able to. I don't want to confirm it, but I think he's going to be able to. He kind of, like I said, sort of confirmed that last week when we were speaking. Told him that Gray was joining us this week. He's like, hey, that was my college roommate, so pretty cool. And they still kind of keep in touch. So I'm going to go ahead and take a break really quick. And in the next segment, we're going to talk with Gray Crow. And then I got some sound bites in the last segment to share with you guys, and we're going to finish talking about what's bad and ugly and what to expect next from Miami. But in the meanwhile, I'll see you on the other side of the break. You're listening to Miami Hurricanes Watch on a 305 Sports Talk Network, and I'm your host, Mike McCoy. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the home for hardcore Miami Hurricanes coverage. This is the Miami Hurricanes Watch with Mike McCoy on the Sports Talk 305 Network.
Red Recover now offers a simple-to-use, professional-grade light therapy device designed to help your dog heal and live a healthier life. Red Recover emits red and infrared light therapy based on the same science that NASA developed, all in a soft, flexible housing pad powered by a convenient, rechargeable lithium-ion battery. Say yes to science and give your dog the care it deserves with Red Recover.
If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your inner Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or innermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where inner Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.
You're locked into the only platform truly dedicated to South Florida sports. This is the Miami Hurricanes Watch on the Sports Talk 305 Network. Here's your host, Mike McCoy.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us and sticking with us throughout that last break. You're listening to Miami Hurricanes Watch on the 305 Sports Talk Network on the Big O Show. So I'm really happy to have Gray Crow on with us, former quarterback at the University of Miami, and he did not want to shame us with his handsomeness and his good looks. So thank you, Gray. I appreciate that. Thanks for coming on, man. How you been?
Really good, really good. Yeah, we spoke last Wednesday, kind of not expecting the outcome Saturday. So I guess I picked a really good one to join. Thinking we were 20-plus point favorites. But here we are.
Yeah, here we are, man. We're going to go ahead and talk about the game. Unfortunately, I do want to ask you about a couple of things in that regard. But first, let's kind of catch up with you, and if you don't mind sharing what you've been up to lately. I know you've been doing some work locally in the high school ranks. Can you tell us about that and how that's going and where you are?
Yeah. So I wrapped up. I went back to school for law school over at wrapped up school and was kind of involved just with a lot of one-on-one training, had a bunch of conversations with people and realized it might be a good idea to consider coaching at the high school level, and just kind of made it work with my work schedule. And I made a lot of calls, but and had a couple of opportunities. But the truth is, I really focused on getting in at one place, and that's Miami Northwestern, where I'm at now. So I started going out to practice over there in the spring. I kind of took the approach that I just wanted to help out, not there to step on any toes, just happy to be there. A place with a lot of history, a place that has produced a lot of guys that I played with that I have a lot of respect for growing up in the state of Florida. Obviously, being familiar with guys like Jacory, with guys like Teddy, Sean Spence, that I've had the benefit and privilege of knowing. Yeah, I took the approach that I just wanted to be out there, help out, work with the kids. And I'm over there helping out with offense and the QBs. And I've been over there since the spring. And time's kind of flown by. I mean, we've already played 5 games and we're in a bye week this week, luckily, because the storm coming, I think that would have messed some things up with the schedule. But yeah, just happy to be out there.
You still with us, Greg? Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I definitely wanted you to mention that because, storied program, like you said, like Miami Northwestern, I think it's really, really cool that, a guy like yourself played college football. It could have been a guy that played college football at anywhere. Whenever a high school team has the privilege to have someone that played at the next level. I mean, I think that's awesome for the kids. They look up to that. They and even the coaches, they can take notes of kind of the experiences, and maybe the head coaches or anybody else on the staff probably played college, but I think it's huge for them, and it gives something for the kids to like work towards and look forward to, and I think that's really important. So hats off to you on that. Miami Northwestern had a game last week at Traz Pala, big game against Columbus. I think they came out on the losing end. I'm not exactly sure. Gray?
Yeah, we had a close one. Taryn Dickens, our QB, went down, I think, in the first quarter, so we had to make some adjustments on the fly. But Calvin Russell, a 14-year-old who's a freshman, I almost said true freshman, but it's high school, right? He's a freshman, and he came in and did a good job. He did a really good job. He has a good grasp of the offense, made some real throws, and gave us a good opportunity to win at the end there. But it came down to a last play, and we just couldn't get it into the end zone.
It's all right. There's always another day, another dollar. So we'll go ahead and look. Well, I'll definitely be looking forward to and kind of focusing in on Miami Northwestern for the rest of the season, especially now since one of our own Miami Hurricanes is on the sideline. So let's kind of move on to Saturday, and it was tough, man. I was home watching the game, and it seemed like one of those nightmares that you're just not going to wake up from, and when you do wake up, it just still feels like a nightmare. Middle Tennessee comes into Miami Gardens and just lays the hammer pretty much. And so I wanted to ask you, man, about what when I mean happens to any athlete, whether it be baseball, football, basketball, swimming, whatever, mental blocks, slumps, whatever the case is. I know that the phrase in basketball is, when you're a shooter, you keep shooting to get out of the slump. When there's a quarterback at any level, like TVD, a guy that's had success, a guy with a lot of expectations, or any quarterback, period, what you're capable of, you can do. But whatever the case is, whether it's a new offense, whether it's just timing routes, or maybe you're just not comfortable with everything with new coaches yet, when you're having a slump, what is it that a quarterback can do, should do, needs to do? What did you do whenever you were in a slump like TVD seems to be in right now?
Yeah, so before I say anything, I just want to emphasize that although I'm a coach now technically, but I'm watching the game as a fan, right? I'm a former player, right, at the program, but I am a fan. So I'm not. With that being said, I'm not familiar with the game plan or what preparation looked like leading up to the game. Now that being said, watching it as a fan was very frustrating and disappointing, right? Especially as a former player, because we expect to not only win a game like that, but win big, and that's the standard, that's the expectation that I think Coach Cristobal recognizes, right? But in terms of Van Dyke and Saturday, I don't know, just personally, if I'd call it a slump. To me, a slump would probably be more like a multiple game thing.
Mm-hmm.
If we saw a Tyler Van Dyke that struggled against a Texas A&M team that's pretty good, maybe it's a different conversation, but I didn't really see it that way.
Okay.
But in terms of me personally, I think that if it's in the game, you have to kind of reevaluate what's working, what's not working, focus on what is working. And then especially at halftime, make certain adjustments with your coordinators and go from there. But correct me if I'm wrong, he got taken out, I think, before halftime even came.
He got taken out in
Right?
the second half. I want to say it was maybe 2 series in. I think he had
Okay.
like 2 series, and then he was replaced by Jake.
Okay. So
Yeah. So thanks for that. I just want to see what your perspective was, because, like I said, in basketball, the term is shoot or shoot. You keep shooting until you shoot yourself out the slump.
that's
So
it.
in football, like there's so many moving parts, and so many people have there's different units. Receivers do one thing, O-line does one thing, obviously the quarterback, and then running back. So it's like you keep throwing, or do you kind of, like you said, the adjustments, maybe shorter passes, and like you said, you were commenting on not knowing the entire game plan or just looking at it as a fan. So from the outside looking in, I didn't know what the game plan was either. I'm not in the locker room, no X's and O's, but it's kind of hard to kind of get things going when the O-line seems to have taken a step back from last week, which they played, the best game that Miami O-line has played in a very long time.
Right.
Even different regimes we're talking here. You go into an environment like that, hold your own, and then you look like this. And then I'm going to talk about that in the next segment. Got some sound bites from some guys in the press conference, after the game. But, the other thing I wanted to talk about was, what do you do now, right? If, again, talking as a fan, because it's not like if you're in the locker room and you're talking with the guys from the outside looking in,
Sure.
and seeing what the offense has been looking like, or Jake or TVD. When you have Jake coming in providing the spark, which he did, he came in 10 of 19, a buck 69, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Tyler, on the other hand, 16 of 32, a buck 38, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Is there a quarterback controversy? What do you do if there's not a quarterback? Like, how do you handle the quarterback situation throughout the week? If you're on the staff, like, what are you kind of thinking should or would happen? Do you say, because Mara hasn't come out and said TVD is the guy and there's no quarterback controversy. He hasn't said he's opening up the competition. So it's kind of like, what's going to happen? What do you kind of foresee as a fan?
Yeah, of course. I think that it's really more common to see those types of changes made after having an issue in multiple games.
Okay.
Maybe there I wouldn't be surprised, but not after really, a half plus of poor play, if we'll call it that, right? But going in line with, and I'm sure you're going to talk about this next, but with, some of the things that Coach Cristobal did say after the game, was just that it wasn't fair to keep Van Dyke in with the way that things were going, right? So that kind of means to me that maybe he feels that it's not all on Van Dyke, and it wasn't all in his hands. Maybe there were some wrong routes or some miscommunications, right? But going in line with that, I think Jake Garcia as the backup came in and did a good job, and that's what the backup's for. I think I was watching, some of the NFL countdown stuff last night. They did a good special on the, or no, I'm sorry, it was the Sunday countdown, but it was one of the specials, like the short specials on the Bills quarterback room, and Matt Barkley, and what's the other backup over there?
At Buffalo. Good question. I'm gonna go ahead and look it up right now because I'm not
they're
sure.
they're behind Josh Allen, and they're both
Okay.
veterans. It's a household name, right? But
Okay.
they're never expected to play as the job of the backup. They're never
Case
expected
Keenum.
to play, but when they're called on, they're expected to win the game,
Right.
right? And I think that Garcia did a good job Saturday, just coming in and executing. You like to think a backup is going to be and should be prepared to execute the same exact game plan, but sometimes when the backup hasn't really gotten substantial playing time when you're down this season, let's say, most of the time it comes down to slowing things down, creating opportunities for your backup when he's new, when he's fresh, and trying to create some bigger windows in the pass game.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And by the way, you're listening to Miami Hurricanes Watch on the Sports Talk 305 network here on the Big O Show. Mike McCoy, your special guest, Greg Crow with us. And if his name isn't familiar to you and you're a Canes fan, shame on you. Quarterback here. And that was from 2012 to what was your time here at Miami, Greg? I'm sorry.
2015, all Al Golden.
All out gold. Okay, 2015, all the golden era. So then, to answer your question, Case Keenum is the other backup or the backup for Josh Allen over at
Exactly.
Buffalo.
Yeah, I knew it was somebody that is, let's say, a household name at this point. He put up real numbers at Houston.
He
So, yeah, I just, it wasn't on the tip of my tongue. But
It's okay. I had to look it up too, so no worries. But yeah, man. I mean, thanks for that, providing that information as well. So as a team, let's talk about as a team. You go into A&M, look good in the loss. As weird as that sounds, they looked good in a loss. Heads were, somewhere other than where they should have been on Saturday. Lose big time to, and I'm gonna go ahead and use the word big time because you're not supposed to lose by 14 to MTSU. So to me, it was a big time loss. And where do you go from here? There's a bye. All right. Is having a bye after a loss like that, does it sting that much more? Because this is my thing. You lose a game, right? Texas A&M. I'm thinking it's human nature. Mind you, I never played college football a day in my life. All right. Never suited up, nothing like that. But I'm thinking it's human nature. I mean, I'm an athlete. After a loss, period, that next game, I feel sorry for my opponent because I'm gonna take. I'm a ball player, so I couldn't wait to guard the next guy or take the next guy off the dribble. So as a team, you're kind of we should have beat A&M. We should have beaten A&M. That's the perfect remedy. MTSU coming into town. We're gonna go ahead and lay the smack down. They didn't, so that's 2 losses in a row plus a bye. Are you thinking about that so much? Are you sulking as a team, and are you like, man, I can't wait to get North Carolina in here because boy, they're gonna have hell to pay.
yeah, I mean, they better turn the page quickly because this is an ACC game coming up. We've had some early adversity with the past 2 weeks, the 2 losses. And to your point on the Texas A&M game, I thought that if we make a couple more plays on offense, we had, just trying to think back to that game, we had 8 to 10 key drops that probably would have been X plays, explosive plays, as we say on the offensive side of the ball, that I think would have changed the game a little bit. And then a couple mistakes that we should have capitalized on. And, I'm going to put it out there. I mean, I wasn't that impressed, but from what I saw out of Texas A&M, just going into the game, I think that I had different expectations for them as a program, good program, right? But, we kept it pretty close. And then rolling into this week, you just kind of saw a different team. A lot of people may not realize this, but, these 2 games don't really have much of an impact on how the postseason looks for this team, right? Maybe the playoffs, of course, but we're dealing with Coach Cristobal's first season as a coach, but not the ACC Coastal, not the ACC game. So we really need to tighten things up and go into, this next push. And maybe we're sitting on the other side of this ACC stretch 8-2. And I'm thinking we're feeling pretty good about our chances at that time.
Miami right now, you look at the ACC, Coastal Virginia Tech. I mean, there's really only 3 teams that have played ACC games, that being Virginia Tech. Actually, hold on. Yeah, Virginia Tech, Virginia, the Cavaliers, and Georgia Tech. So Virginia Tech leads right now, obviously, 1-0 in the conference. Virginia and Georgia Tech are 0-1. So Miami and North Carolina will both be playing their very first ACC games. And that's going to be, I believe it's a 4:00 kickoff on Saturday, October 8th in Hard Rock Stadium at Miami Gardens. So Miami's got a lot of things to figure out, man. One of those things is going to be, I'm assuming, everybody's going to want to know, media, fans, all included. Is TVD going to stick around? If he does, how short of a leash, if any, is he going to have one? Are there going to be any personnel changes on the O-line, maybe receivers? Is there going to be an open competition now at any of these positions? One constant that, I don't know if you caught it in the first segment, that D-line, that's been, and one thing between the PFF grades that I was talking about in the first segment, I'm going to go ahead and pull them up right here. One constant, I was talking with a buddy of mine yesterday, this is a great point. Max made. Of all the guys that have been graded out, in the past few games, well, the only games for Miami that have played this year, the underlying theme has been that they're all transfers. They're all transfers. Jafar Harvey, not a transfer, but Daryl Jackson, transfer. Hakeem Mesidor, transfer. Daryl Porter, transfer. Antonio Moultrie, transfer. And also, those are guys that are all playing on what side of the ball? The defensive side of the ball. Most of them in the trenches. So, I mean, that's just something to look at. Mario came here to fix the trenches, all right, offensively more, but the trenches,
Sure.
period. But so I mean, I guess that's, you take that and it's kind of like a glimpse as to what to expect recruiting wise. I mean, when he took over in December, he had a few weeks just to turn things around. When he took over, I think the recruiting as a team, Miami was ranked like in the 50s or 60s. They finished top 15.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I mean, definitely heading in the right direction. And I think Greg Rousseau said it best. He was asked about the Miami loss, and he was like, look, as crazy as it sounds, as messed up as it sounds, Miami's headed in the right direction, even after a loss like that. But great, man. Thank you for taking your time out of your busy evening, especially, during storm prep and everything like that. I know your family is up in the Clearwater area, so I hope that they're safe and sound. I know that you told me your dad, you spoke to him, so everything seems to be good on that. But thank you very much, man. I hope it's not the last time that you're able to join us on this show. Maybe hopefully sometime later on in the week. I'm sorry, in the season. But I'll text you a little bit after the show. But thanks for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Mike. Thanks for having me. Hope to be back soon.
All right, cool. And we'll go ahead and take a break after that. You're listening to Hurricanes Watch on the 305 Sports Talk Network. We'll be back.
You're listening to the home for hardcore Miami Hurricanes coverage. This is the Miami Hurricanes Watch with Mike McCoy on the Sports Talk 305 Network.
Red Recover now offers a simple-to-use, professional-grade light therapy device designed to help your dog heal and live a healthier life. Red Recover emits red and infrared light therapy based on the same science that NASA developed, all in a soft, flexible housing pad powered by a convenient, rechargeable lithium-ion battery. Say yes to science and give your dog the care it deserves with Red Recover.
If you're a Miami sports fan, then there's only one store to go to, and that's Caneswear at Miami Fanwear in Davie. They're your one-stop shop for all your inner Miami CF, Canes, Dolphins, Panthers, and Marlins merchandise. They have hats, t-shirts, game day jerseys, and so much more. Located at 2511 South University Drive in Davie, and open 24/7 online at caneswear.com or innermiamiwear.com. Call them at 954-835-5597. Caneswear, the spot where inner Miami and all Miami sports fans shop.
You're locked into the only platform truly dedicated to South Florida sports. This is the Miami Hurricanes Watch on the Sports Talk 305 Network. Here's your host, Mike McCoy.
Hey, picture of me over in Slam Studios. That is one of the coolest radio studios I've ever been inside of. Over at Slam Academy in Miami, overlooking like the Brickell area. It was pretty cool. But thanks for sticking around with us throughout that last break, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Miami Hurricanes Watch on the Sports Talk 305 Network. I'm your host, Mike McCoy. Last segment, Greg Crow, former quarterback, University of Miami, awesome guy. If you're into high school football, check out the Miami Northwestern Bulls because he's over there giving his input on the offensive side of the ball, as you heard. Dedicating his time over there. And it's good, whenever you get out of football or, maybe, I don't know if you think your time is done and then you have an opportunity like that to coach young men, that's got to feel really good. Obviously those young men look up to you, and just to give them a little bit of what you know and what you've been through and your experiences and what to expect at the next level if they're blessed enough to make it that far, that's got to go a long way. So thanks for lending your time and helping these young men grow in their athletic and educational careers grow. But I'm sorry, Gray. However, I want to go ahead and finish up is conversation the right word to use if I'm talking to myself? whatever thoughts that I had in the first segment about the good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to talk about the 3 real McCoys, all Hurricanes. In my 3 real McCoy awards, I'm kidding, not one, okay, and I don't have a problem saying it, not freaking one. But yeah, man, my notes here. So I want to share some audio because this is part of what I think, or I just want to share my thoughts about, the game and whatever happened on Saturday. And it's just disappointing, man, because when you look at how it all transpired, it's like, Miami was supposed to lay the smackdown, especially me. I'm a competitor. I know most people out there probably listening are. And when you lose at anything, you want to go ahead and make up for it. So I'm thinking, Miami should go ahead and lay the smackdown. Not the case. Not the case. So what I want to do is, first of all, to set the table, okay, I want to go ahead and play a clip from Middle Tennessee State's head coach, all right? He's talking about how Miami, how they kicked Miami's ass pretty much, okay? It's maybe like a 20-segment clip. And when I saw it, I was just like, man, that stings. But good for him, because you want to know one thing I did do is give Middle Tennessee State University credit on their Twitter feed. And that's something I never do. Like, I'm so used to this and so numb to seeing Miami play like garbage that it's really discouraging. And I want to go ahead and play that clip. So this is Middle Tennessee State's coach after the loss, their press conference. And we're gonna go ahead and let me know when you find that, Chad. It's the clip. It's the press conference right after the game that he was. I bet you they were still at the stadium. It's not like if they were going on radar or anything like that. So we're at the stadium. Just let me know when you got it, Chad or Sean. But he was feeling good. He was talking about how the players came in and did what they had to do, and 26-point underdogs, and how it feels good to do something that you're not expected to do as a team. And as a Miami fan, we've seen that all too often, man. We've seen that all too often. So this is a clip. He was on the radio. We'll go to the press conference clip in a second, but I want to go ahead and play this. Go ahead.
Two goal line stands, we stop them down there. They ran for 194 yards against Texas A&M, the number whatever team in the country they were. They ran for 68 against us. They averaged 1.6 yards per carry. They gave us 1.5 million, but they got 1.6 yards per carry. But I don't know where that came from.
I'll tell you where it came from, Coach. It came from your soul. What you talking about? It came from your soul, Coach.
Two goal line stands, we stop them down there. They ran for 194 yards against Texas A&M, the number whatever team in the country they were. They ran for 68 against us. They averaged 1.6 yards per carry. They gave us 1.5 million, but they got 1.6 yards per carry. But I don't know where that came from.
I'll tell you where it came from, Coach. It came from your soul. What you talking about? It came from your soul, Coach.
So that, you know what? We're going to give him the 3rd place Real McCoy. We're going to do that right now. We're not going to go
McCoy. McCoy.
I'm not going to go ahead and start the segment yet, but I mean, look, that's the top 2 in the other top 2 in a second. But let me know when you found that other clip, Chad, of Coach Stockstill at the post-game press conference while the teams were still while his team was still in the stadium at Miami Gardens after the game. And listen, when you throw for 408 yards, when another team that's ranked 25th in the country knows you're going to throw the football, that's embarrassing. It's an embarrassing loss for Miami. And, at this point, where do you go from here, right? What's next for Miami? There's a bye week. Everybody knows how Miami performed off of bye weeks last year. I get it's a different regime, but clearly the stench and odor and just, I don't know what else to call it, from bad habits, all right, and bad whatever you want to call it, is still in the stadium. It's still in the building. It's still in the room. So I wouldn't be surprised Miami comes out looking flat. And I'll tell you what, in terms of the quarterback play, TVD, everybody knows what he's capable of, right? But let's say Coach Cristobal goes ahead and sticks with him and shows him the confidence that you should as a veteran guy and a coach that's been around the block. How much of a leash do you give TVD? Is it a really, really short leash? Is it 2 to 3 series, which is what I'm in favor of? Is it a half? I don't know. Or I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know what I would do. And if you are not the TVD that everybody knows that you're capable of in the first 2 to 3 drives, especially if you throw one pick or if Miami goes down. If there's no flow to the offense, and I get it, being a quarterback, you're depending on a whole bunch of other things. You're depending on 5, maybe 6 guys to block for you, okay, and other guys to catch the ball, right, and running backs to be good in pass pro. So that's the other thing you got to look about, and we have that clip. This is right after the loss with Coach Rick Stockstill. Check this out.
Fantastic win, extremely proud, happy for our players. It's always fun to do stuff that nobody thinks you can do. And coming down here, 26-point dogs, and kicking their butt like we did, because it was a butt kicking. There was no fluke to this. And just really proud of our team, the toughness that we played with. We were the tougher team here tonight.
They absolutely were the tougher team on Saturday. Isn't that crazy to say? That's just, but you know what? It's crazy to say, but I'm used to it. As sad as that sounds, because this is the second time in 3 years, 2019 Miami loses to FIU, and then last year Miami escapes with a 1-point win or a 2-point win. It was definitely a 1-score win versus Appalachian State, but that's a team that's kind of proven themselves, especially 2 weeks ago where they go into Texas A&M and win. But and then a couple of years ago, I think Miami looked really, really bad against the Bethune team here in Miami Gardens. So it's just like, Miami needs to get back to not only beating teams that they're supposed to beat, but beating them how they're supposed to beat them. Back to the quarterback situation. Like I said, I don't even know if there is going to be a quarterback controversy. I don't know what the chat thinks. Chat, I don't know. Should there be a quarterback controversy? Who do you guys got in there? Are you going TVD with a short leash, or are you going Jake? Because if you make that change, you don't want to have the Mark Richt situation, Jaron Williams, N'Kosi Perry, and flip-flop them, because I'm sorry, I love Mark Richt. I do. I've never spoken a negative thing about Mark Richt. Now, his former quarterback coach, his son, different story. But Mark Richt himself, you're the head coach, you make the final decisions. I think he kind of ruined N'Kosi Perry's career, because as a quarterback, you play those head games and am I in, am I out? Do they have confidence in me? And what am I going to do? That's what cannot happen in this situation right now. Okay, that's what cannot happen. And then you got to think about this. This not so much the coaching, just more of a fan thing, and the players that are involved have to think about this. Let's say TVD doesn't finish out the season, and Jake comes in and he does what he's supposed to do, leads Miami to 9, maybe 10 wins. You got to start thinking about who's going to transfer. Remember, Ja'Cory Brown is in there, and he's expected. The guy's built like a tank. He's grown like physically. He doesn't even look like a quarterback. He looks like a safety that, he looks like a really, really good athlete. He's coming in. Jalen Rashad is coming in. So it's like that quarterback room is going to be pretty talented come this time next year. So what do you guys do? Is there a quarterback controversy? Like I said, you have a short leash. That's one thing. And then the other thing is personnel changes have to be made. Personnel changes have to be made, because there's one thing that I see in terms of Corey Flagg, number 11. The guy's been, as much as people like to rank on Corey Flagg, okay, number 11 has been a solid linebacker. He's the guy that calls out the shots on the defense. The quarterback of the defense makes the changes and all like that. But I was talking about this to, one of the guys that I talk football with over the weekend. And as good as he is on first and second down, and maybe, obvious running downs, I don't want to see him anymore in pass coverage. Okay, that's not to say he's a bad linebacker, because I don't think he's a bad linebacker. But like in every sport, let's say you're a basketball player and you're the best basketball player on the team. That doesn't mean that you do everything better than everyone else. Jordan was the best player in the NBA. He wasn't the best shooter. He wasn't the best ball handler in the NBA. Maybe the best athlete, best overall basketball player, okay, but he wasn't anywhere near being the best shooter. Maybe best mid-range game, okay. But what I'm trying to say is Corey Flagg may be the best linebacker on the team in a lot of different aspects, but pass coverage is not one of them. Him in open space, that's not his forte, and that's okay. That's okay, because especially it's okay for Miami if you have guys that excel at that. I want to see some Wesley Basint out there on third and obvious. I want to see some Chase Smith out there on third and obvious. Heck, for the crowd of fans that want to see James Williams as a linebacker and strictly as a linebacker, I'm not one of those guys. I want to see him play safety, okay? But if for those guys that want to see him at linebacker, perfect opportunity to put him in the box on third and obvious. 6'5" guy. You know how many passing windows he's going to close just by sticking his arm out? Lord knows what his wingspan is, but we've seen him miss pass coverage this year. He looks decent. So imagine him in the box, closer quarters where things are tighter. He'll probably be more effective. I just don't want to see Corey Flagg in pass coverage situations. Give me him, first, second, even third downs, as long as they're not, and I get it. There are downs that, third and obvious, they're going to pass it. And they end up running it, maybe like a draw, just to get some extra yards so they could look better, fourth down punting it, right? Or maybe running it on a third and obvious, so maybe they could get a little closer to kick a field goal. But I can't. I can't do it anymore because it's hurting Miami. He looked like he was running in mud on one of these plays. The receiver caught the ball towards the middle of the field, and he had to shuffle, turn around. Corey Flagg did, and somebody else ended up making the tackle. All right, or I think that play, if it wasn't for a touchdown, it was a significant gain, run after the catch. Right. So I don't know, man. I don't know, but that's one thing that I would like to see personnel wise. The other thing that I think is obvious, okay, and I'm not one of those guys that watch the ball during football games. You try to watch everything, all right, which is why, as a football fan, it's important for you to watch games at least more than once. We got YouTube nowadays, or if you go ahead and record it on your TV, everybody has the on demand. You can pause, record, whatever, go back and play it. God bless them. Thank you for transferring from UNLV, but I think there are better players right now. I don't know what the situation is with Justice Oluwaseun, but right now he seems to me somebody that doesn't really. I'm not the biggest X's and O's guy, okay, but he seems to be a step behind the other guys on the offensive line. And I'm not just talking about this game. Number 70, the guy that's played the right guard the entire season. All right, he didn't look his best. I mean, as a whole, A&M, the offensive line played great, but there were still some spots that you're just like, man, like, what was that? Justice Oluwaseun, like, come on. Remember, he was a transfer from UNLV. They came in. Everybody thought that he was going to, it was going to be an awesome fit chemistry-wise because at the time, Garen Justice, the former offensive line coach for Miami, he coached, I believe, Justice at UNLV at one point. So maybe people thought, I was one of those guys, hey, pick up a guy that you played under and, he'll recognize the scheme. It'll be a seamless transition. Now there's a different system and, whatever. But remember, other guys like Jonathan Dennis, they're on the roster, transfers from Oregon, played his high school ball down here at South Dade Senior High School. He's available, okay? And so was Logan Sakapolu, all right? A guard that also followed Mario Cristobal from Oregon. So there's options there, right? I don't know if you slide Scaife inside and start Zion, or maybe I don't know what you do, all right? But I just don't want to see at least those two guys, all right? There's got to be an open competition at receiver. And then in terms of Will Mallory, you guys know that I love the guy. I love the guy. But he seems to be, a liability, run blocking or blocking, period. And that's okay, too, because you want to know what? Fine, you're a pass catcher. He did drop 3 passes, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody correct me if they know the correct number on Saturday. But he seems to be on and off. And as a coach, again, I'm not the biggest X's and O's guy, but I do know this. You reward guys that practice well and reward guys that are going to be doing the job in terms of blocking. That's something that Arroyo, number 80, the free tight end, backing up Will Mallory does, all right? And I hate to say it, but I mean, if it calls for taking less snaps, I'm taking snaps away from Will Mallory. Listen, I've said it all along. There's never going to be a player, coach, recruit, or administrator at the University of Miami bigger than the U. All right. You're doing it for the team. You're doing it for the team. And if you're not pulling your weight, take a step back. Maybe you need to just focus and figure some things out. Maybe the new offense is affecting everybody. But it just seems to me that the inconsistencies that we've seen from Will, and I've backed him up for years, and I'm still backing him up. But I want to see these guys win, man. And if you see something, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. All right. So at this point, this is the money year for Will Mallory. Miami's 2-2, 4 games in. You're like in, a quarter of the season. ACC play hasn't started yet. Changes need to be made. Miami's preseason, quote unquote preseason, is done with. Right. So, I mean, those are personnel changes that I want to see made. And then I want to talk about Miami's mentality really quick going into the game. And this is something that really burned me up because there's no excuse for this. I want to talk about what some of the guys like Ja'Kai Clark said when asked about the mentality heading into the game. So here's Ja'Kai Clark in the post-game presser after Miami's loss versus Middle Tennessee State on Saturday.
Ja'Kai, you said on the radio that this team wasn't prepared. What did you mean by that? Or you guys weren't prepared as you should have been?
We just weren't as locked in as we should have been pre-game. During the week, I feel as though we had a good week of practice, but pre-game, we were not as locked in as I feel as though, me personally, I feel as though we weren't as locked in as we should have been.
What did you notice pre-game that makes you think that?
Lack of energy.
Yeah, Jalen said you guys maybe overlooked them a little bit coming off that Texas A&M game. Is that a fair assessment kind of on that? What you're saying?
I mean, I feel as though we realized that they were a good, very talented team. Like I said, I just feel as though we came in kind of lethargic before the game.
That pissed me off. That really pissed me off. And you want to know why? Because you are guys as a team are not good enough to go through those motions. All right. Maybe in 3 or 4 years, when you're able to roll out your helmet on the turf and other teams are scared of you, maybe you could do that. All right. But we just saw Georgia take a win at home and they barely beat, what was it like? Chad, I don't know if you could pull up the score really quick. Georgia's win at home between the hedges, the defending champs, okay? They didn't look their best at home. So it doesn't really matter if you're at the top of the mountain or not, okay? Teams are going to come even harder for you when you are at the top. And we know that goes for any sport, but that soundbite really pissed me off because it's like you just came off a loss, Middle Tennessee State. Like, I don't understand. You know what that means? It's a sign of an immature team, a mentally immature team that isn't mentally strong enough to go ahead and just play sparingly or whatever. You should never underestimate your opponent, whether it's football, basketball, JV basketball, badminton. I don't give a damn. And, you know, I don't know what's going on in the practice facility this week, but if part of it isn't getting guys whipped into shape in terms of, and this is another thing, it's just hard as a coach. I don't understand how you get guys mentally prepared. I'm one of those people that don't feel that it's a coach's job to mentally prepare his players for a game. If I have to tell you to get ready for FSU, when FSU's coming into town and you're the number 2 team in the country and FSU's the number 1 team in the country, if I had to tell you, hey man, you know, you really got to be prepared for this game today because it's a big game nationally. If I got to tell you to be ready to do something that you love, you have a problem and you got to go. You got to go as a player, because me personally, and I know there are varying opinions on this, and that's fine. I'm just on the side of the fence that coaches are not supposed to worry about preparing their guys mentally and getting their guys hyped up for a game, no matter who it is, especially if you're coming after a loss at home to a team that should be by 50. You should be licking your chops because you know you were this close to at least going into overtime with A&M. You should be wanting to blow the doors off of Middle Tennessee State. That's how I see it. Other people think that it is a coach's job to get your team mentally prepared. I don't see how that's the case. I really don't, because I've never think about this. When media asks coaches in any sport, what are you telling your team before one of the biggest games of the season? You know, AFC Championship game, you know, you guys are going into KC, Josh Allen, you know, or whatever. What are you telling your team? Well, every time that I've seen that question asked to a coach, I've seen the coach say, well, you know, I don't really have to tell those guys how big of a moment this is. They know what to expect. They know how to prepare, and they've been here before. But it feels like, you know, when it comes to certain things with this roster, there are really some bad habits ingrained from past regimes, and it's made them seem like mental midgets. And nobody's scared of playing the U anymore. It's been that way for a long time. Nobody's scared of playing them. They look forward to beating them because, look, a win against Miami is still a big deal, as you can see. It's still a big deal because everybody puts it on their social media and they break turnover chains and this and that. Thank you, Taz Haitian Canes. Thank you, Taz Haitian. Look at that, 39-22.
Yeah, I was going to say, I put it in the chat, but 39-22 Kent State.
39-22. So, I mean, it's like, it's they lost at home by a team that Kent State, I don't know what the line was in that game, but it was supposed to be what? Like, definitely more than that. That's a 17-point win at home between the hedges. Those starters were in the game in the fourth quarter. I can guarantee it. I can guarantee. I look at the box score right now, and I bet you that they were in there because Kirby Smart. There's no way you're pulling out your starters with a 3-score game. It's just not happening. But the other thing I wanted to talk about, man, other than that, there's another clip I wanted to play from I have it right here. Here it is from Jalen Rivers on the same subject about not being prepared. So this is an all across the board thing. Okay, check out Jalen Rivers and what he said after the game.
Well, Middle Tennessee, obviously, we're going into the Texas A&M game. It was a real big game on national TV, and then you take on Middle Tennessee State. I don't want to ask if you underestimated them a little because you really don't underestimate any, but do you feel that there might have been, this is a game that you really should have won based on the quality of the opponent between a top-ranked team and Texas A&M versus Middle Tennessee State?
I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We obviously, I say we, everybody, we're all in this together. We looked at that team, we're going to win this game. So we came in, obviously, unmotivated or kind of slow, and we had to ramp things back up when we got punched in the mouth. So that's basically how it is. Obviously, we go into Texas A&M like, we're going to prepare for each team like the same. But, I just feel like we just came in this game like, we're going to win. And you obviously see what happened.
That's just nuts, man. That's just nuts. A couple of things I want to get into before we wrap things up. I'm going to get a few minutes. And thanks, Chad, for giving me a few extra minutes here. We normally wrap things up around 9 o'clock, but just had a couple of things that I wanted to get off of my mind. I still got to give the second and first place real McCoys. But going back really quick, just something that popped into my head. I was listening to Jalen there. Going back to the quarterback play real quick, right? So I have in my notes right here, like, about Jake Garcia, a couple differences from he and TVD, and maybe why at the moment he's the backup or was named the backup at the beginning of the season. The dude has a gunslinger mentality, which is good and bad. I mean, Brett Favre was a gunslinger, is going down to one of the best quarterbacks of all time, but he's also the quarterback that leads the NFL in most interceptions ever, right? So that gunslinger mentality quarterback in a quarterback is great, but you don't want to take risks like that all the time and maybe put your teams in holes. And Jake does that. Jake likes to let it fly. He's a slinger, and that's how he plays the game. That's part of the reason why he's such a good quarterback. He's also a little bit more mobile than TVD. Not that TVD is a statue back there, because we all saw what he did last year and that long, I think it was like a 30-yard touchdown run, maybe 40-yard touchdown run at home versus Virginia on that Thursday night when Borregales couldn't hit that field goal to win the game or maybe tie the game. I can't remember what the situation was. But those are a couple differences there. As a thrower, good thrower, nice downfield accuracy, may not have the arm strength. And this is not saying that TVD has a noodle arm, but I think in terms of arm strength, TVD checks the box in that regard. But mobility a little bit more from Jake, and more of that him trusting his arm a lot to fit balls into windows that he probably shouldn't throwing on the run. That's something that he's also good at. And, you saw his accuracy down the field when he hit, I think it was Keyshawn on that long play, or was it Romello? I think it was Keyshawn on that long play, on Saturday. But to close things out really quick, man, just, it's going to be a long 2 weeks. Expect some news. Media availability for Miami is non-existent this week because of the bye week. So expect some news next week, because that the media is going to be asking about the quarterback situation and what the case is. If I had to put money on it, okay, I think TVD is going to go ahead and get the nod. All right. I don't know if this is me being a knee jerker or not. I probably would give it to Jake. I don't know. So you may ask me tomorrow and I'll say TVD. Right now I'm feeling Jake. All right. But tomorrow I may say number 9. But I got to finish these real McCoys, and Chad and Sean did a really good job of coming up with this, and O as well, coming up with this throughout the week. I'm sorry, towards the beginning of, we started this show, and just kind of giving the real McCoys and MVPs of, or maybe even players of other teams or coaches for situations that, or anything that has gone throughout the week of college football. So we did Coach Rick Stockstill. All right, did I pronounce that right? Stockkill of Middle Tennessee State University, the Blue Raiders coming into town and doing what they do against Miami, right? I'm going to go ahead and give the second place Real McCoy to a team that beat the former 6th ranked team in the country. They went into Norman, Oklahoma. The Kansas State Wildcats went into Norman, Oklahoma after losing to Tulane. Okay, after losing to Tulane, they went into Norman, Oklahoma and put 41 points on a Brent Venables defense.
Real McCoy.
Play it again. It sounds
Real McCoy.
So they get the second place. They get the second place, Real McCoy, going into Norman, Oklahoma. And I mean, look, that's one of those venues in college football that it's like, oh, you're going into Norman, Oklahoma, man. Good luck, But they went in and they pulled it off. So I just want to go really quick. They're 3-1. Kansas State is 3-1. They earned the right to be ranked 25th in the country after that when they go in 41-34 in regulation and beat the Oklahoma Sooners. This is a team that obviously they lost, their head coach, their former head coach, Lincoln Riley, in that offense going to USC. But Dylan Gabriel, a quarterback that transferred from UCF, right, had some big-time numbers over there. 26 of 39, 330 yards, 4 touchdowns, not enough. They even had a running back go over 100 yards, not enough. And K-State, just doing the job, 41-34 going into Norman, Oklahoma on Saturday, getting the job done. Now, this is kind of going to make me sick to my stomach, but this is a team that I really thought was going to be not good. I wanted to say something else. Not good going into the season. Didn't expect them to be undefeated at this point. Didn't expect them to find ways to win, all right, with an O-line that looks like me. I'm 192 pounds. I'm 6 feet tall. And they just didn't, other than Jordan Travis on that team, maybe one of the most electric players, at least running the ball from the quarterback position in college football. As a team, I hope this is the last time I say this, but I got to keep it real. FSU is impressing me. FSU is impressing me. They're going to get the first place, Real McCoy. And I know that's going to put a stinker in it, but you want to know what? It is what it is. It is what it is. FSU is looking like a team that is finding ways to win, all right? And it kind of reminds you of 2017 Miami. Miami was finding ways to win, leaning on their defense. FSU hosted Boston College last week, and they won going away. And I'm going to tell you what's up next for FSU. This is kind of the gauntlet of the schedule for FSU, so maybe we'll start to see some things that we haven't in the first couple weeks of FSU. Right now, they're 4-0. They just beat Boston College, a team that they're supposed to beat, and they beat them 44-14 the way you're supposed to beat them. Well, they got Wake Forest this week on ABC at 3:30. Wake Forest ranked number 22. Right now, FSU, their ranking is 23. So a top 25 matchup. They're first in the ACC Atlantic. And guess what? There's going to be some fireworks in that game. At least you think so, right? Because have you ever noticed that whenever teams with high-powered offenses, not that Pro State has a high-powered offense, but look, they've been scoring points they scored 47, 24, 35, and 44 points this year. They go into Louisiana and beat the Tigers 24-23, Louisville 35-31, and Boston College 44-14. They're filling themselves right now. And in any sport, there's nothing more scary than a team with confidence. Wake Forest has an offense, though. And so something tells you that game may not even be the 30-something to 30-something game that people are expecting, or the fireworks, having both teams in the 40s. I would not be surprised to see either of those teams hit 30, because whenever two defensive teams play, it ends up being a shootout. And whenever two offensive teams play, it ends up being not. Look at the Dolphins and the Bills this weekend. Perfect example. But that's a game that I'm going to be looking forward, especially with Miami having a bye this week. But FSU's got Wake, then they go to NC State, they host Clemson. So there's a 3-game little stretch there before they host Georgia Tech that you kind of want to see what they look like, and then they come to Miami November 5th for homecoming. And we'll see what the Canes are looking like at that point. The Canes may go ahead and the way the Canes are looking right now, they may spoil a primetime matchup. FSU's undefeated right now. I hope FSU stays undefeated so that Miami gives them their first and maybe only loss of the season. That'll be a great situation for Miami. But that's pretty much it, man. That's pretty much it. I really don't have the energy. The Canes are still on my mind, and when they lose, it takes me a couple of days to just get back into things. I got to talk to O about moving this show to maybe Wednesday or something like that, because I feel like there was a death in the family almost. All right. But guys, I appreciate you I appreciate you tuning in to the Miami Hurricanes Watch with myself, Mike McCoy, on the Sports Talk 305 Network. Join us next week. I'm very confident in saying that Scott Patchen is going to go ahead and join us. Gray Crow's roommate. If you guys missed Gray Crow in the last segment, he joined us talking about quarterback play, what he's doing with Miami Northwestern Senior High School, being kind of like an offensive consultant, coordinator, quarterback coach, just lending his time to the program, kind of giving them tips. And he joined us. Go ahead and watch the replay if you want to. So Scott's going to join us next week. He said he'd be available, so I'm going to go ahead and say it's confirmed. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to go ahead and talk to him. And that's all I got. I had a few more notes to go ahead and share with you, but I'll go ahead and leave them for next week because they're still going to be relevant. But until then, I appreciate your time, and go Canes.
You've been listening to the Miami Hurricanes Watch with host Mike McCoy on the Sports Talk 305 Network. The Watch is mastered by Sean Stanley and Chad Shobe. Please subscribe to the Big O Radio Show on most platforms. Thank you for supporting the Miami Hurricanes Watch. Have a great night, Canes fans.